Hey guys, and welcome back to Brexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, Suella the Braverman has had some really bad news. The appeal court judges have said no, no, no. You cannot send people to Rwanda. It is dangerous, it's an unsafe country, and we fear that the Rwandans will send them back to their country of origin. And I think that this is like a bit of a Pyrrhic victory because I'm going to be using that term a bit later actually as well. Because you see, I think they wanted, to get a knockback so they can start attacking, there's these lefty lawyers, they don't necessarily not necessarily have to be lefty lawyers. I mean, they're just lawyers who practice like immigration laws or whatever. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're lefty lawyers. We don't really know what their politics is, right? Because with lawyers they make one hell of a lot of money. So if that's what they practice, they'll be making a hell of a lot of money out of it. So as I said, it's for me, it's not really a major victory because still we don't know. It's still up in the air because now they're going to go to the Supreme Court. So everything is still up in the air, whether or not they'll be able to still go through it because they're going to go to the Supreme Court. But I mean, it's great for them because now they get a chance to attack Labour, which they've already started attacking Labour over. We're saying like, oh well, Labour's happy that that it hasn't gone through, and I said, well, it's just like all the time, right? Labour saying it's a bad idea, and then when it doesn't go through, right, the Tories are well, it's the Labour Party's fault. But you see, I mean, this is a great part for like some culture wars. They can be playing some nice culture wars with this as well, because now they're saying, well, people, the only people who are happy about this are the Labour Party and the people traffickers. They say really, just like after 13 years. After 13 years, right, the Tories are still blaming Labour. After they've been in for a decade, right, and a quarter decade, nearly, right, they're still blaming Labour because all the Tories have is culture wars. They've got nothing else at all. And they know that, that their base, well, they think that this plays well with their base because on Question Time the other night when people was asked, well, do people think that they should be sending people to Rwanda? No one put up their hand in like the Question Time is very much Tory dominated at the moment because they've got the majority. So they like to have the audience reflect how the government look. So the Tories have got the majority. So generally, it's a very, very much Tory led Question Time, and no one put up their hand. And I know, right, that all of the politicians would have been watching this and they're thinking, oh, and then they must be thinking, hold on a minute. I thought, right, that Rishi Sunak keeps saying, that stopping the boats is what the country really wants him to do. But I suppose the country does want him to stop the boats, but he seems to be going about it all in the wrong way. Because I mean, obviously now, the people traffickers will say, look, you can get on the boat now because you know what? They've just been told it's illegal to send your ass to Rwanda. And remember, they've been boasting all this time saying, oh, well, anybody who comes over will be sent to Rwanda. They will never, ever get a chance to stay in this country. And say, well, you do know that Rwanda's only taking 500 people, right, a year. I mean, that's what they was taking, 500 people a year. So, I mean, the whole thing, I'm quite sure that over this weekend, that more than 500 people will make the crossing. So you have to say, which 500 are we going to send to Rwanda? And I mean, if it's only 500 a year and we're having 40,000 come over on little boats, I'd say we've got a bit of a deficit. But as I said, all they've got is culture wars. So they can wind up the people who they need to wind up. And the truth is, until working class white people, right, understand that their issues are not race, classism, until they work that out for themselves. Because obviously, it's been all these years, right, and they still haven't worked this out. And the Tories, every single time, the Tories just seem to abuse them. I mean, look at the position that the Tories have put this country in now. So all the working class white people that voted for the Tories, I mean, I can guarantee you that none of them, not one of them, feel better off now than they did when the Tories took over. I mean, there's no way. Well, they can't do, because I don't, and I haven't spoken to anybody who does. I mean, I suppose if you know some really rich individuals, then I suppose, they would be like, well, hasn't been too bad. I mean, if you was to go for someone like, maybe, let me just think, the governor of the Bank of England, a man who believes, or I should say, the man who earns $2,500 a day, right, who's prepared to tell people who are on 50, 60, 70, 90, 100, 150, 200 pounds a day, you are the problem, because you want a wage increase, even though he's getting $2,500 a day. It's like, that reminds me of the man who sat on the table, right, with coffee and biscuits. And one man says, you know what? He takes 9 of the biscuits, right, and there's 4 people around. And he looks at one person and says, look, him over there, he's trying to take your biscuit, while this motherfucker's got 9 biscuits in front of him. Right? He'll be sat there at a dinner table, right, gorging all the food with his family round, right, starving, right, and then he complains of heartburn. That is the Bank of England governor, right, who believes it's okay for him, right, to be making £2,500 a day, probably more, bit of change on top of that, a day. But he's telling the people, right, who are nowhere near, right, not even the 500. Professional people, not even the 500. Right? And he's telling them they are the problem. You see, that's why this country is in such a messed up position, right? That's the reason why this country is going through the cost of living crisis. And as I keep telling people, this cost of living crisis is because they have lost control of the economy. Once one of the greatest economies in the world, now an economy that people laugh at. Big companies avoid, uploading their business on the stock market here. They go abroad and do that now, because the UK stock market, right, is not worth shit. And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages sent me. Special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go for all your messages. I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all your messages for definite. And the Tories have come up with a plan for the NHS. After all this time, after we had Boris Johnson, 40 new hospitals, and we had Boris Johnson, I have a plan for social care. And we had Boris Johnson. Didn't he say something about a lot of doctors and nurses? All right, maybe I've gone too far. But seriously, the Tories have come up with a plan, right? And you say, well, it's a good plan. It's a decent plan. And it would be, right, if it wasn't for the fact, right, that it was them that ruined the shit in the first place. The Tories have come up with a 15-year plan, right, so that they can try and clear up their 13 years of fucking up. A 15-year plan. We're going to train up more doctors and nurses. We're going to, we want to inject, I think, 300,000, doctors and nurses trained in this country. So that's the reason why it's a 15-year plan. But I'm just thinking to myself, well, does this fool know about retention, not redemption? That's a song by Bob Marley. Retention. If you're treating your staff like shit, like something that you scraped off the bottom of your shoes, like when you just scrape the cracky ass, right, and you throw that in the toilet. If you're treating your staff like that, and all these people that you're saying, well, we're going to train them all up, right, and they'll be so happy to work for us, and they could just go to somewhere like Australia, because the Australians are crying out for UK medical staff. I've got a friend who was in New Zealand, and he said to me, yeah, I was in a dentist, and the receptionist was British, and the dentist was British. And I said, yeah, we come over a couple of years ago from Britain. Couldn't stand it no more, right? Don't want to live in a fascist country, was his words. And with, they've had, the Tories have had a massive Pyrrhic victory. See, I said I was going to use that word again. They've had a massive Pyrrhic victory over the nurses, because, not enough nurses turned up for the ballot, but it was something like, it was, I think, about 85% in favour, but not enough of them turned up, because you know how the politicians like to be. They're like, well, you can if you want to have a strike, you have to have this percentage of people turn up. But for them to be in power, it's like, oh, well, we could run the whole country on 35%. Why not? So that's how these people, whatever it is, they're trying to make it difficult, yeah, for the nurses. They have made it difficult for the nurses to strike. Now, all that's done is, there have been nurses who have just been thinking to themselves, you know what, I should just leave. I should go. And they keep saying it, but, they was never really going to do it. But now I think you've pushed a percentage of them to go. And I think, people who are saying, well, I'm definitely going, they're going now. Right? And then you've got those people who are saying, well, I don't know, I've seen it and I do like it. I'm just having to think. You've got a high percentage of them that are going now. So as I said, for them, by them doing what they've done to the nurses, it's a massive Pyrrhic victory, because really, we've got consultants going out on, that's going to go out on strike. This is after the junior doctors. So we've got consultants now who are, 128 grand or whatever it is. But, people say, oh, well, look at them, they're greedy. But, you've got to understand that people live to their means. Right. So if a consultant, they're not going to be living in like, a three up, three down, or whatever it is, right? They're not going to be living in one of those. They're going to be living in much bigger houses, right? Which reflects on their monthly outgoings, right? So you could imagine that, like, if you've got a mortgage that was like, because a lot of these guys they would have already had mortgages that was 3.5, maybe 4 or 5 grand already, right? So now, if their mortgage could have doubled to 10 grand, or it could be 7.5, 8, 9, right? So that's the thing. So and they're driving, and the cars what they're driving, they're driving, they probably drive, they could be driving Bentleys, So, and if they've got those on finance, then finance probably don't change, because I don't think it can. You're going to be on set. You're going to be on a set fee, but still, right? It's still, your mortgage has doubled, and your house, your utility cost has doubled, and your food cost has doubled as well, right? So it's all for them, it's the same as it is for us, but just they just earn more money. But so it's quite understandable why the consultants are like, well, you know what, I know a lot of them will be millionaires. Do you know what I mean? But still, you could well have some of them who are living by the month, even though they're earning that much money. They're still living by the month. So the health service to me is in complete problems, and if I think that they're going to train up a lot of people, right? And those people are going to be like, well, I'm going to go to Australia or to Canada anyway. I mean, the minute my training is finished, I'm off to New Zealand, right? You know, I think that they're going to, I mean, they're probably going to have to get another load of doctors in from, like, from Nigeria, from India, from Pakistan, from the Caribbean, and all those type of places, because, and maybe America, because if you notice, right, no Westerners, right, want to come to the UK or want to go to America. It's understandable why they don't want to go to America, because they could just be in the mall and get shot in the head while they're buying a pair of jeans, Levi's, and 501s are not to die for. But or they could just be in the supermarket or send their children to school, little kids. Send them to school, and next thing the police just come around and say, "I'm sorry, but your child was killed by an AR-15, which is a military weapon." And they say, "Have you seen what a military weapon does to a little body? Have you ever seen it?" We like it. Well, they've got to like it, because I mean, why else would you have that kind of shit in your country? So, you know, so yeah, so I don't know. I just think that all that's going to happen. Sorry, I was saying, right, that no Westerners, if you notice, want to come and live in Britain or want to go and live in America. As I said, in America it's because they're going to get shot in the head. In Britain, it's because they're the fascists over here, and the cost of living crisis, right, and plus all of our institutions have gone to pot. So we can't attract, like, doctors and nurses from Canada or from New Zealand. In fact, they're taking all of ours. They're treating us the same way, yeah, how the Premiership treats West Ham. Even though West Ham, brought home some European silverware, Arsenal still think they can swoop in and offer £100 million for Rice. And say, if that was me, I'd be like, 100 million, you say, right? Yes, I do a little bit more negotiation, because once someone goes to 100 million, you know what? I can still push them another. I can still push them a 10 or 12 mil. Right, if they go to 100 mil. So that's what we are, Britain, right now. We're just a feeder. Like, West Ham's a feeder to Arsenal, or whatever it's to sometimes to even Tottenham or to Chelsea, right, who just always swooping and take their players, taking that, right, take their players in the same way, right, how New Zealand, Canada, notice I don't say America, it's New Zealand, Canada and Australia. They're the ones who are just saying, you know what, you train them, we'll take them. When it comes down to our medical staff and our teachers. But you see, you got to understand, yeah, is a lot of those people, yeah, they are woke lefties. And you know already, right, that I think you have a much nicer country, right, if more people are woke than you have when you have people who get angry about an LGBTQ flag. I think you'd have a much nicer experience, right, in a country where they think to themselves, who gives a shit about that flag? Why are you getting so annoyed about that motherfucking flag? I mean, there's a big thing in America where guys are going and ripping them down out of people's drives and that, and burning them. So, seriously, man, do you know what I mean? They're like these people over in this country where they take one of our bikes, right? The bicycle hire scheme, and take it and throw it in the Thames. We're in a country where they think to themselves, you know what? There's a nice phone box. I'm going to smash it up. So that's why you can imagine a lot of these people are burning. It's the same type of people. Let me just run through some Brexit headlines, because I'm sure there must be a few that I've seen. And I was thinking, obviously it's the Brexit anniversary was a couple of weeks ago, isn't it? No, last week or the week before, right? And a lot of people are still talking about Britain, how it rejoined. So I don't think it's possible for this country to rejoin. Because first of all, I mean, the EU would have to want this country to rejoin, and there's so much reasons why there are countries in the EU who don't need us to rejoin, because they've taken so much of our business, and they might think, well, if we get them to to rejoin, they might want a lot of these financial services back. Norway will think, well, hold on a minute, if they rejoin, right, then they're going to want to start fishing in our waterways, and we won't be able to sell them rock, cod, and skate. Yeah, and place. We won't be able to sell all that type of fish, will they? Because we'll send our very own trawlers up there to go and get it ourselves. So there's going to be so much people. I mean, the Dutch, they've taken a lot of our financial services. So have the Spanish. I mean, even the Americans have taken a lot of our financial services. So so it's a lot of people. It's not in their interest, right, for Britain to rejoin. And then they'd want us to be in Schengen, and they'd want us to have the euro, and there'd be no rebate. We wouldn't be getting no rebate. We would never get the slick, wickedest deal that we had before, because our deal, all other countries just said, why are you treating them so good? Why are they so special? Not anymore, though. Not anymore. Brexit won't define the next election, but the one after that is a different story, says the New Statesman. Because Starmer, obviously, even now, Starmer still can't. He still can't really, talk Brexit down, even though it's destroyed the country. Still can't talk it down. Don't know why, but just seems to be the way it is for these people. I'm sure it's another one. I don't know if you've seen that story about Nigel Farage's bank account being closed down, and Nigel Farage says he's considering leaving Britain because those woke banks have closed his account down. I believe the man of the people who banks with Coots, I believe it is, and I believe the royal family, that's where they bank. So Nigel Farage, the man of the people who banks at Coots. Anyway, guys, look, I'm going to wrap this up because this is a weekend, and I have to wish you all a fantastic weekend, and I no doubt will see you very early next week. My friends, this is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It's really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.